name is Nicole. I'm a producer for the Remembering Them podcast. The podcast is a platform for people to share stories and memories of their loved ones who have passed away. The podcast was created in memory of Dad, Bob Cecil. May he rest in peace. Your host, Mark, Ryan, and Luke acknowledge the rich history and importance of storytelling within the indigenous culture.
My name is Jorgi Skeen, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today. Today we're meeting in Meanjin, and those traditional owners are the Yagara and Turrbal people. And I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and acknowledge my people, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and extend that acknowledgement to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in today.
Hello, Luke. Welcome back to the podcast.
G'day, mate. Thanks for having me.
Just the two of us on tonight, which might give our listeners a bit of a clue to who we're recording with and where they're from. But first and foremost, there are only two of us on this recording. Ryan, our good friend Ryan, is unavailable today. Today, actually, or date of release, I'm not sure you're aware, is, where did I have that? I did have it written down somewhere. Let me just find it. There's a reason why Ryan can't be with us today, unfortunately, for this recording. As many will know, sometimes it's true, often, or most of the time it is true. It's always true. Yeah, the reason Ryan can't be here today, 11th of March is when this episode will come out here in Australia, is World Plumbing Day. And Ryan loves his plumbing, so he's out there with plumbing. He's plumbing away at home. I think he's doing some neighbours stuff as well. But that's
just
what
laying pipe.
Yep, he's elbow deep in it today. So happy World Plumbers Day to anyone out there, and that's unfortunately why Ryan can't be on the recording today. So all the best, Ryan, today, and all the plumbers out there. Luke, 3 clues for you today, as always, to try to guess where our guest is from and where we're recording, or where this person is recording. Clue number 1, play along at home as always, everyone, see if you can get this before Luke. We're after a country. So not a city or a state like we normally do. So pretty, you got a good opportunity here, I think. Clue number 1, in 1953, scientists in this country revealed the double helix structure of DNA, a discovery that transformed biology worldwide.
I like how you started, and you're like, oh yeah, it's 8:30 at night, so I should give it away. And I was thinking that the whole time. I was like, it doesn't give anything away. I mean, it's really early morning in America. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's true. Depending what coast you're on.
Yeah. Maybe I guessed as an early riser. Still, this clue sounds Australian, but I feel like you've gone left of field. You're not going to give that clue so easily. Man.
Double helix structure of DNA.
All right. Australia.
Just not Australia.
Out there. Yeah, get it over and done with.
Clue number 2, play along at home, see if you've got it. I'm not sure if anyone would have got it after that one. Clue number 2, this country had the world's first public railway. Opened in 1825, possibly could have been in Australia as well, but we know it's not that. Was the first public railway to use steam locomotives, revolutionizing transport globally.
Have we? I feel like we've had this clue before.
Possibly.
Very similar.
Yeah, very similar. I have thrown a lot of railway clues out there, I feel like.
Is it the birthplace of like the steam engine?
That might have been a previous clue, but
this one's maybe not. I'm trying to squeeze it out here. It's not. We're not up in Scotland, are we?
We're not in Scotland. I think it might have been something that rings a bell, slightly, but not Scotland. Third and final clue for you, and for anyone at home that doesn't have it already: inventors of the World Wide Web invented the World Wide Web here in 1989, reshaping global communication, business, and education as we know it today.
We've got to, man, these clues are just left, right.
They're very left of field.
The train's just throwing me. The internet just screams the States. but it can't be. I don't know. I don't know, man.
Railway, internet, DNA, double helix
DNA.
DNA.
Yeah, great. Narrows it down. Oh man, Canada. We in Canada.
We're not in Canada. We're actually in the UK. So clue number one, Francis Crick and James Watson were working at Cambridge when they revealed the double helix structure. Clue number two, the Stockton and Darlington Railway was the first public railway, opened in 1825. And clue number three, Sir Tim Berners-Lee. Tim Berners-Lee, a British computer scientist, invented the World Wide Web back in 1989. I didn't know that clue, but that's very
There you
interesting.
go.
All in the UK. The UK is a historic island nation made up of England, Scotland, Wales. So I guess you were kind of right with Scotland
Pretty close.
and Northern Ireland, known globally for its cultural influence, royal heritage, and democratic traditions. Today's guest is a full-time content creator who shares life with his fiancee and their 18-month-old daughter. He's passionate about fitness, supporting others through mental health and grief, and using his platform to make a difference. While he often shows up with strength and positivity, something many don't know is that he's faced with his own battles with mental health and fought his way back from rock bottom. All the way over from the UK is Kyle Miller. So welcome to the Remembering Them podcast. Officially, Kyle, thank you very much for joining us all the way over from the UK. Thanks for sorting out the time differences. We know you're just getting stuck into your Wednesday over there, and we're winding down actually over here. So thanks for sorting out the time.
No, thank you for having me on today, guys. It means a lot to me to be able to tell my story and tell Connor's story, so it's good.
Awesome. It's absolute honor. I know I've had the privilege of having a little sneak peek of what we're talking about, but yeah, you mentioned Connor. If you want to jump in and tell us, obviously who we're talking about today, your relationship to him, and what actually happened.
So, Connor, he was, I would say, best friend, but you know when you have that one friend that's just like your brother, you do everything together. Um, you're always around each other. You don't really have any other company with other people. That was me and him. Like we were a pair. And everyone in our local town sort of knew us as, oh, they must be brothers because they're together all the time. And yeah, Connor, we met at the boxing gym when I was 11, and he was a few years older than me at the time. And we literally just hit it off from there, and have been best friends ever since. And then I don't know if you know about certain things that go on in the UK, but knife crime is really high here at the moment. And in 2017, Connor was stabbed, and that's what resulted in him losing his life and him not being here with me today. So
That's, yeah, obviously really sad to hear about. I don't know if we're aware. I don't know if Luke, you are either, but the knife situation over there, it's I guess we don't hear about it as much. I don't know, but what led up to that, Kyle? Was it a altercation or what happened?
so originally the boys that were involved in this altercation, we were all like not part of the same circle, but we had like a mutual friendship with each other at one point. And I don't know, things just sort of went funny on their end, and they decided that they chose to have like a problem with Connor in some sort of aspect, like they were pushing for there to be some sort of argument. And Connor didn't back down. He was a boxer. He was loved by loads of people, and he wasn't the kind of person that was afraid of anyone or any sort of altercation. And Connor, they were arguing back and forth for a while, and Connor said, listen, we're men. If there's going to carry on being a problem and you want to fight me for whatever reason, when my hand, because he had a broken hand at the time, he said, when my hand is healed, we'll sort it like men. And the guy just kept persisting. And it wasn't until like a month or so after the argument had continued to go on that they had actually set Connor up to be hurt. And they'd ran up behind him going down the road and like got him in the stomach. But the knife, it's all on the news. It wasn't like a little blade. It was a big hunting style knife. So the intention was there.
Were you there, Kyle, or around?
I wasn't there, but it wasn't far from my house, and that was the only day that I hadn't spent with Connor that it happened. Um, so obviously I had a lot of guilt at the time because of they call it survivor's guilt, don't they? Where you don't sort of your mindset is straight away. Why has this happened to him, and why wasn't I there? It just you spiral out of control. Um, but no, I wasn't there at the time. But he he had messaged me previously in the day, and then I hadn't heard from him after, obviously. So
And how was that news, Kyle? How do you remember the moment where you're at and then the time following that? And you started to touch on, the grief and survivor's guilt. What was the preceding time after that like for you?
so I got a call, I think not even an hour after the incident had actually happened. His cousin rang me because I was very close with the family, and his cousin rang and said, Connor's been stabbed. And I said, oh, like you just even if you hear that, you just sort of assume that, well, it's Connor. To me, he was my older brother in my head. This I looked at him, he was my older brother. He was strong. And when you're young, you think you're immortal. You just think nothing serious. It can't be as bad as anything. So at first I didn't believe him. I was like, oh no, like this can't be true. Put Connor on the phone, I thought he was just joking around to see what sort of reaction I would have. And he said, no, I'm going to get my mum to call you to just like further back this up and give you the actual details. So I answered the phone to her, and it was true. Everything that was going on was true. We didn't know the severity, but we did know that he'd actually been stabbed, and in a result, he was on his way to hospital. And I remember because I wasn't allowed to go there that night, obviously, because he was rushed straight into theatre. He was operated on straight away. And I remember just laying in bed thinking, no, like that this isn't going to be as bad as I'm thinking, Like, I'm going to go up there. He'll be like, look, I've got a scar. Look at this, badge of honor kind of thing. And it wasn't until the next morning that I'd actually got a call from the intensive care unit, and they was like, your friend's in coma. They'd induced him into a coma, so they put him in one themselves to try and like heal him. He'd bled out in the back of the ambulance on the way up because the hospital it's quite a long drive from our town. So we have our main hospital, but they don't deal with that kind of trauma because it didn't happen much at the time. So they drove him up there, and they had to resuscitate him in the back of the ambulance to get him back. And then because of that, they'd put him in a coma because they needed to monitor his brain. They needed to like keep him basically not using his own body. They needed to do everything for him in order for him to like get better. I think that's what they were saying. And they said, you can come up because of, we've heard how close you are. And they said, if anyone can get him out of his coma and bring him back, it will be you. And I remember that phone call because I was 15 when this happened. So I instantly thought, well, I have a responsibility and I need to kind of go and fulfill it. So I've traveled up there, and again, even though they're telling me what they're telling me, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to go in and he's going to be laying in a bed or asleep or not able to talk to me. It wasn't in my thought process. So I've gone to the ICU, and they were sort of like giving me a rundown of what state he's in and what to prepare myself for. And I've gone inside anyway, and he had kidney machines, he had breathing machines. He looked different to me. There was wires everywhere, tubes, the noises. And it wasn't until then that I thought, oh, this isn't good. And actually, I have a real risk of losing my brother here. Um, so over that period, I think because he was in there for 6 days and I kept going back and forth from home to the hospital because I was trying to be there as much as I could. Um, and I think over them 6 days is when like not just survivor's guilt and not just um, like grief, but like real mental health problems. So like PTSD. I've been diagnosed with PTSD now, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. But yeah, the damage is just you can't erase it from your mind.
How did you deal with it back then? You know, him passing. Obviously, you mentioned he was in the ICU for 6 days, and then obviously succumbed to his injury. How did you deal with it then as a 15-year-old? You can imagine, testosterone. You're a teenage boy. There would have, I'd imagine, be a lot of anger, and to what you've learned since, to where you are now.
Um, well, it was on the 6th day, so the day that I was told he'd passed, well, he was gone. I went to the hospital. I got a call at 7:30 in the morning from a nurse who was like, um, "Oh, we've been doing brain scans, and he looks better. There's some activity. You need to come up here because by the time you come, we would maybe have even taken him out of his coma, and he might be just asleep or sort of coming back around." So he did have a bolt in his head as well to relieve pressure from like a swollen brain from the bleeding. So obviously I jumped out of bed, I've got ready, and I've rushed up there to the hospital. And I was with Connor's auntie and uncle at the time. Because obviously my mum stayed behind because she thought it was good news finally. It's not, she didn't feel like she had to come and monitor me because we were expecting good things. So the mood was quite high. And we got back into the room where he was, and he was exactly the same. And I sort of thought, like, you told me this was going to be different. Why is he still attached to all these machines? And a doctor come in and took Connor's auntie into the corner of the room. And I was a bit like, because they had their backs to me, and I was a bit confused as to what was being said. And then she wasn't quite crying at this point, but she was, like when her head started to lower and everything. And then she called me over to listen. So I walked over to them, and I remember the doctor grabbed me on my shoulder and he said, "Your brother's gone, and we can't bring him back." So to go from like such a positive high mood in the morning to then having it just dropped on you that actually you're not going to talk to him again. Like at the time, my brain just couldn't comprehend what I was actually being told. And to say goodbye, I sort of left where the conversation was and walked over to his bed, and I grabbed his hand, and I just remember saying to him that, like I gave a few promises. I'll always be there for his family, no matter what. If they need me, even now, they can call me. I talk to his mum a lot, so I help out as and when I can when I'm not busy. Um, I promised him that I'll always tell his story, and I wanted his name. I've always wanted Connor's name to just be everywhere. I wanted people to talk about him because in my mind, if I have people around saying his name, and so he's still here, maybe not physically, but I can feel him in my local area. I can still feel that he is around and people talk about him. And I've done news interviews about him, and it's just great to know that people are talking. It just makes me feel good. But yeah, so obviously I'd left the hospital and I'd gone home after saying goodbye and stuff. Oh, thing about saying goodbye, I kissed his head to say goodbye, as you do. I kissed his head, but I remember this. I'd started crying at this point, and my tear had fallen from my eye and then ran down through his. And I remember that kind of being like almost to me, like he was saying goodbye as well. You know, like it's teary, it's emotional, but I feel like it happened so perfectly that it was almost like we both were saying goodbye to each other. And that forever sticks with me, that memory, because even though he wasn't consciously there, it still for a moment felt like he was there. Um, but yeah, driving home, I remember his favorite song come on the radio 6 times on that drive home, and we'd flick the radio station because we couldn't bear to hear it, and it would be there again. It was just crazy situations, a bit of a coincidence. But yeah, I got home and I remember walking into the kitchen, and my mum was so excited, obviously, to hear that he was awake. Um, and she said, how is he? How is he? And my mum, I have to elaborate so people understand. My mum, Connor was very close with us, and he more or less lived with me. He was like always staying at my house. And he called my mum because of like certain situations. Um, they've both been through similar things in life, and I feel like they really connected in that aspect. So she was like a mother to him, you know, and he called her mum because he loved us all like family. And anytime he sort of had an accomplishment, he'd run in with the certificate to show my mum, and he'd be like, Mum, look. And you know, just the son and his mum, that's how it was. So when she asked me how he was, I remember I just shook, I couldn't even talk. There was no words for me to physically say. I just shook my head and just broke. I was crying. Um, you know, I couldn't, because not only am I trying to explain that I've just had to say goodbye, and then trying to deal with the thoughts of what I was going through and dealing with, you also don't want it to be true. Like I don't want him to be gone. Why am I having to say goodbye? What? It's like you're being forced to do something that you don't actually want to do. Um, and then obviously you get I call it the pit of emptiness, because it is the emptiest feeling in your body when you know, and when it hits you, that they are never coming back. You just, you feel empty because of it, because that part of you that the part of you that your loved one feels in your heart is gone. You know, you have the memories, but the memories at the time are so heartbreaking that at the time, when it's all fresh in your mind, you can't even think about the good times without thinking about the bad. um and that's what's taken me so long to process, is that I couldn't think about him without hurting or being sad. But I didn't want to be like that, because the memories I have of him are the best, and I wanted to think of them and remember them. So yeah.
Firstly, before I ask about memories, what was that song, Kyle, that came on, his favorite song?
Oh, so it's called Bestie by a rapper called Young'un.
Yeah, right. Okay. I haven't heard it, but I'll have to look it up after this. That's okay, and can you listen to it now? Like obviously at the time so raw, but
Yeah, I can listen to it now. Every now and then I'll play it and stuff, and I'll talk to him. You know, I'll say, "Oh, look at what's come on," or something. So
yeah, cool. Well, we'll definitely have a listen to that. You mentioned some of those memories. What give us some of those best memories that you had with you and Connor?
so obviously at the time we were young, so we were boys and just doing silly things. But we have, you know, memories at the boxing gym were great. Every Friday I was up there and he was there, and Connor didn't think before he spoke. He was very like abrupt and very outspoken, and that's what I loved about him, because he was just so honest with everyone. And I remember we was doing this exercise, like the whole gym had to copy each other, and you're all laying on your back and doing like 6 inch 2 foot, I think they call it, with your legs.
Oh yeah, yeah. Lift them up just above the parallel. Yeah,
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 yeah. So we was doing that, and I remember him shouting like 4 or 5 different swear words all at once, and the coaches were going crazy because they were like, "You can't say this. There's kids here." Like it was just funny things like that all the time would happen. Or like once we were walking through, because where we live, there's a lot of woodlands, and we were walking through the woodlands, and on our way through, we found like a leather sofa, and then we found like tarpaulin, and then we just made this, and then there was this like half built brick wall in the woods for some reason. So we like made the tarp and built like this big like outdoor thing with a roof, and it ended up being like our chill place for like 6 months. It was ridiculous, but it was fun because we did it together, you know.
Yeah.
So yes, just I could talk all day about the memories, but you know, there's only so much you can say.
Yeah. What about how would you describe Connor? We know his story and what happened, but how would you describe him to a stranger, to us? Both him as a person, but also physically. How do you remember Connor?
Connor was a protector and very physically able, in the sense that anything he put his mind to, it would be done. He was mentally strong. I remember like seeing him go through certain things, and I'd be like, this would break me. I don't know how you're just getting on with life like nothing's going on. And I admired him for that, because it's just, you look at this person and you're like, nothing can touch you. You are the definition of what I would say is like immortal. That's how I looked at him, because he was like my older brother figure, but you just felt like when you were with him, nothing could go wrong. And I would explain Connor to you as, if you walked into the room upset, you would leave it happy. That is Connor. He would cheer you up without even trying, and that's what made him funny, because it was just, he'd do funny dances, or he'd say random things to make you laugh. Like, he didn't like cats at all. I don't know why, he just didn't like them. And he used to say loads of funny things, and things you'd never even think are funny about a cat, he'd make you laugh about. Like, it's just odd things, but because it happens, because he's talking so much at once about one thing, and he'd say such funny things, it makes you laugh and you're happy. And he didn't have a big circle of friends, you know, like people. Obviously, we knew lots of people and we did hang out with lots of people, but within our circle, you only sort of like, you guys know what I mean. When you're in a big group of your friends, you only know who has your back, and who you're actually really close with. You can pick like 3 or 4. So it was just me and Connor a lot, and that's how it was for us. That's why our bond was so good, because we knew hands down we had each other's backs, and that was it. It didn't need to be any other way.
Yeah, I'll touch on that in a moment, Kyle. The closeness and versus the big circle. But physically, looking at Connor, describe what he would look like.
This is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. Hey Luke and Ryan, life gets heavy sometimes, especially when grief hits. For me, that weight often shows up as anxiety.
Yeah, it's not always one big thing. Sometimes it's just life piling up, work, relationships, trying to hold it all together. Suddenly, I'm anxious and don't know why.
Totally. I used to think anxiety meant panic attacks, but for me, it's more like overthinking every choice or feeling like I'm never doing enough.
And it can even hit on good days. Out of nowhere, I'm spiraling over things that haven't even happened yet.
It's easy to feel alone in it, but you're not.
That's why we're talking about our paid partner, BetterHelp.
BetterHelp connects you with credentialed therapists who can help manage anxiety and more.
Most people go to BetterHelp for anxiety, and 69% feel better after just 6 weeks.
Getting started is simple. Fill out a quick questionnaire and get matched with a therapist. If it's not a fit, you can switch at any time.
Their support team is super responsive, and with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 Trustpilot rating, it's a platform you can count on.
So let BetterHelp help manage your anxiety so it doesn't manage you.
Click the link below or go to betterhelp.com/rememberingthem for 10% off your first month.
He had like your classic boxer's physique, you know. He was ripped. He wasn't giant, but he was tall, you know. And he loved his outfits. He took care in how he dressed. His hair was very important to him. He used to love his hair. But yeah, you would look at him and think, yeah, you do some sort of activity, you know, classic boxer look, muscly arms, ripped, just, yeah.
Lean. Yeah.
Yeah, everything most teenage boys want to be, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you mentioned there, just going back to that, your closeness and um, how did that then impact you through your grief journey? I guess you must have felt quite alone in that time, and then how has that impacted you going forward in terms of the lessons that you learned since Connor's passing and how you've had to deal with things?
So for me, obviously, where I was with Connor every day, and we were literally from like morning, and then he'd sleep over. And as I said, he pretty much lived with me at one point in time. So going from being with him every day to nothing, and I mean, like, it wasn't the thing I find with some people is like, some people, obviously, you're never ready for a loved one to die, and I'm not saying that that is what it is, but with Connor, there was no warning. You know, like with grandparents, for instance, as they get older and start to slow down, you do think, okay, like one day I'm gonna have to say goodbye, and you do slowly prepare yourself. I never got to prepare myself. Connor was here, and then he wasn't. Um, and as you said, you must have felt a lot. I did. It was the loneliest thing I've ever been through because, okay, we had friends, but I never really connected with a lot of them because in our circle, I was only with Connor. I'd just walk around with Connor, and that was it. And I remember as well, like when he passed away, even though so many people online were posting things about him and saying they loved him, and like I'd get messages saying, "Oh, like we're here for you" and stuff. You because of the mood you're in, you don't. It goes over your head, doesn't it? You're like, "Oh, okay, you're saying you're here for me, but I don't think anyone can be here for me right now. I can't even show up for myself because that's how I'm feeling." And it was my mum. She said to me, she sat me down once because I stopped eating. I couldn't sleep anymore because obviously I had PTSD but didn't know at the time. And she said, you don't live, like you're just existing. You're just getting by because you're waking up, kind of thing. And that was the first time I think like I actually felt understood about what was going on with me mentally because it was true. I was just like I'd go to sleep at 6 a.m. and then wake up later on in the day because I couldn't sleep at night. I don't know why, but nighttime for me was just rough. I couldn't shut off. My brain would be racing. Um, Obviously I'd be upset and I'm missing him. And yeah, it's just even though, and it's strange with grief, I think, because even though you do have people around you supporting you, you don't feel it's like you don't choose to accept the help because you just don't want to hear it. Um, but then like some people, they don't know how to approach you either. And I understand this now. At the time, I didn't understand. Um, but some people don't actually know how to approach you when you're grieving because they don't know what to say. And obviously, they don't want to trigger you. Um, but it's tough because you realize how big the world is when you lose someone you love so much, and how little time people actually have around because you think that you're going to live forever and that nothing can hurt you, especially when you're young. Your mentality is, oh, well, I'm young, you know, but you can literally be here today and gone tomorrow. And it's scary. It's very scary.
What helped, Carl? What helped you get through?
Well, with my mental illnesses, especially, I've come to because obviously you have to rediscover yourself when you got mental health. It's like when you go through something traumatic and you're not ready to face it at face value or on the surface, you have to your brain changes how you are as a person. Like my personality is different now to how I was at 15. And it's not just because I've become an adult now, it's because I literally reshaped myself depending on how I was grieving one day or how angry I was the next. But like I can't go out to and have like a social event with my family anymore because drinking for me is not a good mix with because my mum says it's because you've got so much self-control when you're sober and you're trying so hard to be okay. You're trying to keep yourself in check. You're trying to stop your mental health from bothering you. You're trying as soon as you have a drink, it's gone. you are just releasing everything, and I'm not. It's not good for me to mix with my mental health problems. But what helped me was um, some people agree with counseling and some don't. I've heard very mixed reviews since obviously going on my journey and stuff. But I went down to the seafront in the summer. This was a few years ago, and I hadn't done any since then. I tried bereavement counseling, and this was like the year after the event. But I remember I went and did one session with this guy, and he was like, "I'm sorry, but I don't know how to help you. Like, it's so complex what you've gone through, and it's so like the problems you're telling me and the thoughts are going through your head. I don't know how to help you." So he referred me back to my doctor, but I don't know if it's the same in Australia, but the doctor just does not. It takes him like a year to do anything for you guys. Like if you need something done, you have to wait. So there's like a self-referral thing here now called Health in Mind, which is it's like one-to-one. Is it CBT counseling? Yeah, I think so. CBT counseling. So they help you, and you self-refer yourself. You give them like a bit of a paragraph about what you've been through or what's going on in your mind, whatever, however you're feeling, and then within sort of like 6 weeks they get back to you, and then you have 12 sessions with them on a weekly basis. So it'll be like one a week for 12 weeks or however they decide to do it. And I mean, counseling was helpful, but I don't think I found my biggest event is just keeping Connor's name alive now. And only now can I understand that that's what I want to do, because at the time it hurt so bad. I didn't want to do anything, you know. And thinking of Connor hurt me. It broke me every day, you know, because I just wanted him here and I couldn't understand why he couldn't be here. But yeah, definitely keeping his legacy alive and doing things like this where I'm talking about him. 4 years ago, I couldn't have done this. Like this would have destroyed me 4 years ago. But now it's important and I enjoy it. And this is what helps me get through, because I feel like he's right in the room with us just because I'm talking about him, you know?
And is that the drive now, Cole? And I guess, as you mentioned, 4 years ago you couldn't have done it, and obviously that's part of the journey that you've been through to get to the space you're in now. What other things are you doing to keep Connor's name alive and his memory alive, his legacy alive?
The Remembering Them podcast is supported by My Legacy Message. How do you want to be remembered? My Legacy Message provides a service that delivers a personalized keepsake video to your loved ones, often as a surprise after you pass. My Legacy Message, be remembered.
Well, I've done obviously this, I've done news interviews, but I've been looking into going into schools and talking to children about like the effects of knife crime and stuff. Because I have a friend, his name's Cole, and he does a lot of bleed control cabinets. So what they are essentially, because he lost his best friend to knife crime, and like he's on Google and stuff. And we did a thing together where I was in a news interview with him because he announced the first bleed control kit in my area. So it's like a big red box with like a bag inside, and it's got like tourniquets and stuff. And it's essentially just to pack a wound from not just knife crime, but any sort of incident. If you're hit on the head with a bottle on a night out, or if if you've fallen over and really hurt your leg, this kit, it's like the best. And for me, when I had the opportunity to go along and help with things like that, it's good because I feel like I can, you feel like you're doing good by other people. I feel like, oh, if that could save someone's life, then I've been a part of it. And I wish they were around when Connor was here, because they are life-saving kits. And obviously what resulted in him bleeding out from like the long journey and stuff, it was so long that they didn't know it was internal bleeding, but if they'd packed it wouldn't have happened. So that's my next drive. It's like going into schools, and I want people to understand the risks and dangers of knife crime, because it's not just, oh, you carry a knife and you kill someone. It's, yeah, but how are their family going to feel? Because you're taking a child away, and it's not something. I'm how can I word it? I am what is left when you use a knife, and
Yeah.
it's not there. I don't want anyone else going through it, but it's such a dangerous thing in the UK because it happens every day.
Did you
Yeah.
did you say it's getting worse, Kyle, as opposed to 10 years ago?
Oh, definitely. I mean, when Connor was stabbed, um, for me personally, it was like the first big knife attack I'd ever heard of. Um, but now it's happening all the time. I mean, like 13, 14-year-old boys are being like searched on the streets by the police for random pat tests, and they're finding blades, or they're finding catapults with, the ball bearings that you can shoot people with. Like, kids are walking around in the streets with these.
It's
Um,
insane.
there's like beach towns near us, like in Australia. I bet it's probably how I would imagine. Like, you go to a nice beach in a certain town, it's nice, you feel safe, you're happy. You've got beach towns here like this with 12, 13-year-old boys running around with kitchen knives that they've taken without their mum and dad knowing, and things, and it doesn't stop. We have a town just a bit further up than me. It's like maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. And a video was posted on Instagram last summer of them running around chasing each other with like machetes. And I'm talking this sort of in front of children, families, because it was a busy summer day. So it's an everyday thing. And it's scary because you don't know. I mean, if you can handle yourself, like you might think you're okay, but what can I do against a knife?
Mm.
I don't carry knives. So to be, back in the day, if someone tried to attack you, you can stick up for yourself and use your fists and what. It's not like that anymore. It's scary, and it's a scary place to raise your children these days.
Mm. Yeah, it's a bit far. I would say it's certainly not a daily thing. I think you do hear things pop up every now and then where there was a knife found, and fortunately it's been taken care of with the authorities or whatever. But I wouldn't say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Luke, I wouldn't say it's a daily thing that we're concerned about, which is fortunate, super lucky. So it's really scary to hear that it's getting worse over there.
Well, after this, I'll send you or it might be on my Instagram. When I did my first news interview for Connor, they were reading the statistics about how many people have actually been, how many knife incidents have happened over a year or something, and I think it was more than 1,000 of them were just in Sussex, which is like my kind of area. So it's it's scary, but I feel like with the right tools and education, see, I know people that are doing this every day now, going into schools and helping like talk about knife crime. I feel like kids just need directing in the right way, because um without it, they can be quite lost and then very heavily influenced by like outside noise. Um and I don't think that it should be happening. So I'm glad that people are going around and doing what they're doing. But I would love to help out. I'd love to tell Connor's story to more people, and then try and help save people's lives by making them rethink about what they're doing.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess you're a living example of how there's consequences to the loved ones that this impacts. So yeah, we wish you well on that battle. It's really sad to hear that it is something that you have to do, but yeah, I guess light on the other side of that is you're able to continue to talk about Connor and what happened to him, and keep his name alive as well with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what brings me happiness, and obviously I'm engaged now. I've got a fiance, and we've had a baby girl. So um even though she's only 1.5, I still tell her all the stories about her uncle, and My partner actually, bless her, she made me an AI picture with him, me, and Monroe, my daughter, in the picture, and it just, she looks at it now, and it's like she knows who he is. It's yes, it's nice
Oh,
for
that's
me.
awesome. That's awesome. Advice, Kyle, that you would give, and on the back of you, going out there and getting into schools and telling them about the consequences. But I guess not specifically to what happened to Connor, but I guess anyone dealing with grief and that sudden loss. You mentioned before that, people with illnesses and grandparents and whatever, you've got a bit of time and a bit of run into it. But I guess that sudden loss, whether it be a car accident, unexpected or a nice situation, what advice would you give to people in their own grief journey?
Um, well, with sudden loss, it's going to be heavy and it does hurt because obviously you're trying to understand what's going on, but you're also trying to understand your own thoughts and feelings about the situation. Um, and it's okay to not understand how you're feeling at the time. Um, my advice would be, though, to take every day as it comes. Do not listen to people that say you should be over this now, or oh, come on, it's been ages, sort it out, or get out of bed, or what. Just take it how you need to take it, because it's only your thought process, your brain. um do what feels right to you. Do not rush how you're feeling. Process everything. And even if talking is hard, I that's the thing as well. Talking, even for men especially, and I understand this, for men to talk and open up is seen as, in their head, or like even me, I thought in myself, you think what if people think I'm weak, or what if people think that I'm not as manly as I should be. It does not exist. That stigma does not exist. If if you need to talk and you are, talk, because there's always at least one person that will listen, and I promise you, you will leave that room with lighter shoulders. And that's my advice for anyone. Just find your person or write it down in a book. As silly as it might seem, you're still venting. You need to vent, take your time, and trust in yourself that things can be better, and they'll get there.
Really good advice, and specifically around, this to everyone, obviously, but especially to men. And I think again, you're a testament to that, Kyle. It's quite actually, I think, quite the opposite. We don't have as many men on the podcast coming on willing to share that story. I think because of that, as you said, that mental
They
perspective.
Yeah, they don't want to be seen as weak, and it's sad, but it's
Mm,
just the way that like some men feel. Because I did a like a studio thing for mental health for like my local town council, and there was like 12 of us on the day, all men, and they all said the same thing. I didn't want people to think I'm weak, or I was nervous to tell my story because I didn't want people to think this, and this of me. And I'm thinking, if you need to talk, just talk. Like I know it's hard, don't get me wrong, but it's not fair to bottle up your emotions and do nothing with them. Because if you're feeling, imagine if every day I did something that like wound you up and I made you angry every day and you just didn't vent it. Well, eventually I'm going to do it too many times and you are going to explode. And that's what's going wrong with a lot of people now, is they're bottling everything up, not talking about it, or not venting. And then they get people start having depression, or I don't want people. The thing is with um like mental health journeys especially, is like people are at risk of suicide, like doing things to themselves. I don't That scares me, and that's because they don't feel like there's people around that are listening, you know um and it's sad because I wish everyone found it easy to talk and open up, because everyone deserves to be here and to live the best life that they possibly can, you know
yeah. Kyle, I wanted to ask, is there something that Connor would say? I know you mentioned in the boxing gym when he was swearing, trying to get through the leg lifts. But is there something that he would say that sticks with you today, either a saying or a quote? I know you said he'd just come up with all random stuff. Was there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, there. I've got videos of this too, but his favorite thing to say was "cats, bruv." So "bruv" in the UK means brother, obviously,
Yeah.
like, but it's slang. And he used to just say "cats, bruv" all the time, and I don't know why. It's still a very random thing, but
Didn't you say he hates cats?
yeah, he hates them.
Yeah.
But the only cat he did actually love was his own. I mean, like he'd walk past other cats in the street and be like, "Oh, I can't stand them," and carry on. And then we'd go to his house and he'd stroke his cat that's on the wheelie bin outside. Like it used to blow my mind. I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Was there any context, or is he just cats, bruv?
Just cats, bro. Literally everything. Like we'd be walking out in the wind and like his hair would blow a certain way, and he'd be like, "Oh, cats, bro." I don't know. It was like his little thing, but it was great.
Oh, that's random. That's so cool. You mentioned your daughter as well. How will you describe her Uncle Connor to her as she's growing up? The things that'll trigger that you'll tell her about him.
Well, I will tell her one day, certain stories, and because she's 19 months at the moment, she's
Yeah.
just it's more faces than stories. But I'd love to tell her everything about him and how he was, and how protective he would have been if she decided to try and come home with a boyfriend at 16.
Yeah.
I've still got all that to come, and I'm trying to slow everything down a little bit to prevent it from happening for a while. Yeah, I would like her to look at him and think, everything you did do, even though you were only here for a short amount of time, the things you did are so great. And I'd like her to find something in him that she admires, whether it be his strong-mindedness or his independence or his loyalty to his people, to his family, to me, or his protectiveness. I would love for her to listen to my stories of him and find just one core value that she admires, but I'm sure there'll be many because he was
There'll be plenty. Yeah. And
he
and worst case scenario, she can hunt down this episode and listen back to some stories that you
yeah.
shared of him. So, and then we've appreciated you coming on. Kyle, I've got one more question for you for the podcast. And it's often our most difficult one. And granted, it's been, some time now, and there's been different stages that you've dealt with the grief. But I also reflect on you saying there's no you should be feeling this way, or you should be over it by now, or that was a long time ago. So I really enjoyed you making that point, because it's one that we hear quite often as well. It's you feel whatever you feel at whatever time that might be. It might be 20 years on, it might be nearly 9 years on in your case, or it might be 9 days on in other cases. So thank you for making that point. But to the long-winded way to get to the final question, if Connor was in front of you today, what would you say to him?
After everything that's happened, and obviously with like how much time I've had to reflect on the impact he's had on my life, um, I would just thank him for everything, because when we met, the whole reason I was at the boxing gym was because I was bullied a lot as a child, and I I didn't have it in me to stand up for myself, not because of I was scared, but because I was such a people person. I didn't want to hurt anybody. I didn't want to upset anyone. If I upset you or made you up, I felt that, it would upset me just as bad. And because of that, I would never stand up for myself. And obviously I had summer break before I started like my next year at secondary school. So when I was just 14, and Connor said to me, "You're my brother. I love you, and I do not want you going to school and getting bullied anymore. Like it just can't happen." He said, "So go into school tomorrow, and the first person that gives you any grief, just like pull them up on it and sort it out." And that's what I started doing. And he took me from the vulnerable boy. And it made me realize that, oh, actually I can stand up for myself, and oh, I can go to school without feeling sick and worried about people giving you grief. So he brung that side out of me, and I still use it now. I'm a very confident person. I'm able to go out and like talk to people about him and stuff, but all that confidence come from him in the first place. So I would thank him for a lot of core values as well. He taught me that being loyal gets you a long way. you know I could never think about crossing my friends, my family. It's just everything's face value. What you see is what you get with me. But if you're part of my circle, I will do anything to look after you, and that's all from him. So I'm grateful for him.
That's awesome. Look, it certainly sounds like you're the man you are today. A lot thanks to Connor and the lessons that you learned from him. It sounds like it was a life-changing, friendship, brotherhood, all of that. So, and we really appreciate you giving up your time and coming on and sharing his story. Part of your mission now to keep his name alive and spread the word and hope that it helps others, and also, fight against that knife problem over there in the UK. So thank you very much for coming on, Kyle. We really appreciate it and loved having you on.
Thank you.
So Luke, that was Kyle from the UK.
That was Kyle. That was
Talking about
that was
Connor.
great, man. I was charmed by him. I don't even think he was putting it on for us, but
No. And you know what? I really think a lot of that, and Kyle, I'm sure will admit this. We won't get him back on to confirm it, but I think he'll admit a lot of that is Connor shining through. What he spoke about in the Patreon, Connor instilling confidence in him and all of the things that he's able to do today, even just talk about him. So, it was a great chat, and really, what a sad story. 16.
It's crazy, man. I didn't realize. Like, I know there's a lot of crime. Like, there's a lot of crime over in any country you go to, obviously, and I know there's like roadmen and like they have like their little gangs over there. But man, I didn't realize that
The knife violence. I had no idea either.
Was that prevalent. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy. You can't just 12-year-old kids running around with knives. Like,
it's crazy. And I think, and maybe it's us over here, and I'm in the burbs of Brisbane, and we don't see it. Fortunately, but in comparison, I saw in the news today there were the biggest issue they had not the biggest issue, sorry, I shouldn't say that. One of the issues they had with teens of that age, 13, 14, 15, whatever, was riding e-bikes on one of the main roads in Sydney and causing issues there. But it wasn't knife violence, out there stabbing people. That's just
it's worlds apart.
It's worlds apart, absolute worlds apart. So
I thought you were going to say the worst thing the Australian teens are doing is on TikTok and Snapchat.
Yeah, well, that too.
Bastards.
Yeah,
but yeah,
but it's a long way away from knife violence. That's just wild.
It's out of it. You can't comprehend it unless you live around.
There.
Even then, like what Kyle was saying, like if you're approached by a 12-year-old kid, you and I were going to look at that and say, "Oh, what are you going to do? If you're threatening me?" But if they pull out a knife, you can't really do much. You know what I mean? Like that's insane. I don't know what you do to even defend yourself. What do you carry around a knife as well, and then fight fire with fire? So
it's a scary thought, and we did say to Kyle, I hope he continues on the work and keeping Connor's memory alive, but also providing that education piece and the consequences that people live with. Kyle being one, him and his family have to live with today, not having Connor around because of this knife violence. So, it was great having him on. Unfortunate, obviously, the reason why, but really glad to hear that he's doing well out of this. He's gone through some dark patches. Obviously, we touched on that a little bit as well with his own mental health. So, thank you so much, Kyle, and it was wonderful hearing about your relationship with Connor, your brotherhood with Connor. Yeah, really great to hear that side of it. And if you are going through your own battle, this will dovetail into our partnership with BetterHelp. I know Kyle had his own conversations with bereavement counsellors and tried a few other different things as well. But we do have that partnership. So if you are struggling with anything, you can click on the link or search betterhelp.com/remembering them. You'll get 10% off your first month's subscription to BetterHelp. Speak to a credentialed therapist should you need it. So we'd highly encourage that if you are going through anything. Reminder that we have the My Legacy message. Kyle touched on having some video footage, I think, of Connor that he can play back. And that's what that service is about. Another supporter of the podcast where you can leave recorded video messages to your loved ones, often delivered to them as a surprise after you've passed, personalized directly to them. So check that out, support of the podcast. We mentioned the Patreon, so we had a great chat with Kyle in the Patreon. A little bit more lighthearted, I would say. We talked about, not to give it away, but we talked a little bit about the boxing. We talked about that a little bit more.
Scenarios, shall we say?
A couple of scenarios and who might win out of that. So jump on our Patreon where you would get. There's also some free content as well. So we release some weekly free content as well. So it is worthwhile being just a member of Patreon. But there is, if you'd like to support the podcast and get the exclusive stuff, that'll cost you a little bit. $6 a month Australian, $9 a month US. I'm not sure what the conversion rate would be to the UK, probably somewhere in between there, £7 or £8. Oh no, it's roughly double, I think. So probably about £10. Not sure.
Pretty
Check that out. But yeah, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/remembering them podcast. The free content is just some general chats that we have on mic, but just not our regular podcast recordings. So a couple of different formats there, but the exclusive chats is behind that paywall. So, and just a way to support the podcast as well, help us pay for things and keep the lights and microphones running. So jump on there. And last but not least, check out our socials. Jump on Instagram as our main one. We are on terrible TikTok, as Luke mentioned as well, for the Aussies out there. TikTok and YouTube as well, if you want to watch us on there. And that's I think about it.
Spotify, Apple Music, review us, share us.
I did miss that. Yes,
you've nailed it pretty much though. Other than that, mate.
Yes, thank you. Jump onto on your preferred platform and look, share this conversation that we had with Kyle. Anyone that may benefit from that conversation if they've lost, a best friend or a brother or someone that they're very, very close with. I'm sure this conversation with Kyle would help them. Plus any of our other conversations that we've had with grief, and jump on your preferred platform and give us a rating and review. That would just help us show up on any searches for grief-related conversations, and that would be most grateful for that. Thank you, Luke, for joining me. We hope Ryan enjoys World Plumbers Day.
He's still plumbing. He's knee deep in waste.
Yes, hopefully
right now. He sent me a photo before, and I blocked him. Actually,
yeah, gross,
it's disgusting.
Disgusting.
Well, he missed out on a gem though. He missed out on a gem. So
he did. Hopefully he cleans up nicely and comes back and is nice and clean and ready for the next conversation. And you know what'll stick with me? Cats, bruv. That's so random.
I was literally going to sign off with cats.
Yeah,
so,
okay. Yeah, you still can. Go for it. Last word. Till next time. Love you.
Cats, bruv. Love you too.
The Remembering Them podcast is created for entertainment purposes. Mark, Ryan, and Luke are not licensed mental health professionals. If you would like to discuss your mental well-being, several resources are available in Australia. Information about these services are available in the podcast notes. Please take the time to contact your loved one today and tell them how much you appreciate and love them.